are these people?
I also wanted to go to an actual Palestinian because I think we did that last week as well. And I think that it's really important to bring Palestinian voices to the show as well. And yeah, it's going to be dark and depressing. I'm really sorry. But we need to hear this too. All right. This is literally somebody, Dalia Abu Ramadan. Okay. Again, the day after the ceasefire had ended, and the day after Mariam had written her article, Israel's bombs rained down at 2 a.m., killing hundreds around me in Gaza. The ceasefire was still difficult, but we believed we would wake up alive. Now Israel has taken even that away from us. So again, while we sit in comfortable United States watching this on YouTube, there are people like that are literally dealing with this right now, and we have to think about, and I don't want to be ignorant of their perspectives and views. Okay, so again, this is an image from Getty Images. People search for survivors in the rubble of a building destroyed in an overnight Israeli military strike in Jabalia in the northern Gaza Strip last night. Last night. I was jolted awake at 2 a.m. this morning by the deafening sound of explosions and relentless bombardment here in the Rimal neighborhood in Gaza where I live. The noise was so overwhelming I couldn't tell where it was coming from. I was in a deep sleep, as I am every night, worn out by the constant anguish we live through. There's no life for us, only survival in the temporary silence of a ceasefire. During the ceasefire, we struggled still to eat, to keep breathing, to find shelter. At least we could rest for a moment, believing we might wake up alive and not to the sound of missiles and blasts. But then something changed. What had happened? During the 2 a.m. bombardment, the earth itself seemed to shake under the force of each blast. Fear gripped my heart, and my family and I scrambled to make sense of the chaos. What was happening? We were paralyzed by the shock, as if we were reliving the horror of war all over again. We couldn't believe it. Had the war truly returned? In disbelief, we reached out to friends and turned on the news, desperate for answers. The response was clear. Yes, the Israeli military's airstrikes had resumed, raining down across Gaza from north to south. Death has returned like a shadow that followed us. Today is not October 7th, but this is the same nightmare in a different moment, a different hour, a different year. New questions haunt us. Will this nightmare stretch beyond a year like the war did before this broken ceasefire? Or will we be consumed from the very beginning? Will this Ramadan mirror be the one we barely survived? Will it bring more sorrow, more despair as we find ourselves trapped in a cycle that refuses to end? In the midst of these terrifying moments, my mind drifts back to the previous Ramadan. How we lived each day as if it were our last, constantly bracing ourselves for the worst. Despite the temporary nature of the recent ceasefire and the grim conditions of destruction, blockade, and famine, this year I had a glimmer of hope. Now, with the brutal return of genocide, my feelings of despair have deepened. Even before last night's bombardment, again, this is parts of the Rimal neighborhood, were already reduced to rubble. The author took this photo the day before the latest bombings. Look, there was a whole structure actually intact. Wonder if it still is. I wonder, where will I escape this time? Who will I lose? Will I ever get to graduate with my bachelor's degree in English translation from the Islamic University of Gaza, which they destroyed? The war and siege have delayed my graduation, but I've never stopped learning or writing, even as everything has been postponed because of the war. Even as I write these words, the sound of explosions reverberates, amplifying my anxiety and fear. Wow, listen to that. I turned 22 during the war on February 9th last year. and turned 23 last month during the ceasefire. Unfortunately, with every passing year, I feel like I'm living a tragedy. How many more years will we grow older while only surviving Israel's wars on us? With every year, that adds another number to my age. I remember the wars I've lived through, enduring both Ramadan and Eid under the shadow of destruction. Even as I write these words, like he says, the sound of explosions reverberate, amplifying my anxiety and fear. The war that I survived in 2014 lasted for 51 days. I was just 12 years old, but I was fully aware that we were living through genocide. The Israeli military completely destroyed the Shujaiya neighborhood of Gaza. In 2018 and 19, many other escalations occurred, and the security situation in Gaza was unstable, especially along the borders where many innocent people were killed, including protesters demanding an end to Israel's blockade and their right to return to their ancestral homes. Then in 2021, as I was preparing for my university exams, the Israeli military rained destruction on Gaza for 11 days. It was in May. It was one of the hardest wars I've ever lived through. Israel deployed weapons it never used before. The war also marked the beginning of the use of fire belts, an Israeli tactic in which a warplane pummels a single location with many missiles. The war reached its peak during Eid al-Fitr, and it was a terrifying time, especially since I had become more aware of the horrors around me. I remember my friend Zainab al-Kulok, who lived on al-Wahed al-Wehda Street in Rimal neighborhood, lost her mother and her sisters and also her brother. Her story was heartbreaking. On that same street she lived, the Abu al-Auf family was struck by a fire belt, and some of its members were killed, and that war ended, but little did we know the worst was yet to come. In the October 7th war, the Israeli military's use of fire belts advanced to the point where an entire neighborhood could be wiped out. The war was not just confined to one area. It was a war across all of Gaza. In 2024, we also lived through Ramadan and Eid in the middle of war. I remember desperately needing to leave the house on the first day of Eid. As I walked down the street in my neighborhood, I saw a house completely demolished with a message written in black pen on its wall. I know you can hear me, wishing you all the best every year. I asked some neighbors who hadn't evacuated about it, and they told me that a young man had lost his entire family and they were still buried under the rubble. He wrote that message because he was completely alone. I had hoped that we'd make it through Ramadan in relative peace under the fragile ceasefire, but it's become painfully clear this nightmare from October 7th, which has never truly ended, has returned with its full force. The terror, the destruction, the uncertainty, it's back, relentless and unforgiving. The war has come back stronger than ever before. It's erupted again at 2 a.m., and by morning, the Israeli military had murdered more than 400 people in Gaza, including many children. In those terrible hours, lives were shattered, futures obliterated, and unimaginable horror unfolding once again. The numbers, the loss, it's more than any soul can endure. We haven't even begun to recover from all the wars that came before. Like many, Zainab have been left shattered and their lives forever altered. They can never get that back. And then there are all those families, at least 1,200 of them, as I talked about last week, who have been erased entirely, wiped off the map. Their names no longer etched even in history. Not a single soul remains. One of them, I believe, had over 50 members. Today, on March 18th, the Zain al-Din family was erased too. destroyed by the return of the genocide, as the nightmare continues to claim everything in its path. We held on to the hope that the ceasefire would last, desperate for a moment of peace, a chance to wake up to calm despite the internal struggles and the obstacles we face as a result of this war. But how much longer must we live through this endless cycle of violence? How many more years will we carry the weight of this war on our shoulders? Will Gaza ever know peace, or will refuge from endless war only echo in the stillness of death? And that's literally what a Palestinian is feeling right now and what they're going through and their perspective. And it's the fucking worst. And our government is doing that. We're doing that.
Are we the baddies?
We are. And Truthout,
I hate these guys.
Truthout is a good independent outlet. They have some TDS, but they're reporting these kinds of perspectives, and they need to be supported. Support independent media. They are an Indie Media Award honoree from class of 2022 for one of the best outlets out there. And again, just heartbreaking to hear the perspective of, and to literally hear the voices from the people that it's happening to in real time. And I think it's important to not, to not leave them out of the conversation, because a lot of channels won't really cover what Palestinians are saying. They'll just kind of cover what American podcasters and American commentators and maybe Netanyahu and maybe a couple of other people are saying about it, but they're not really giving that voice, and it's painful. It really is.
Shout out to the EI too, who does an incredible job doing
Electronic
that.
Intifada, also Indie Media Award honorees,
right.
Absolutely. Nora Barrows Friedman and Ali Abu Nima and Asa Winstanley and John Elmer, the whole crew over there, man. They do amazing work.
And if you go look at their website, it's nothing but actual Palestinian journalists, practically. So,
yep.
We'll give that a shout.
This concludes, finally, our Fuck Israel portion of the program. And we're definitely not getting remonetized for stuff like that. So if you are able to, out of means, please, I hate begging and I hate doing this.
Money, please.
That one. We could use some help. Cash App, Ko-fi, PayPal, even Substack if you must. But please try to do one of the other three if you can. The reason being that they don't take very many fees. We end up with the most possible money. If you super chat on my channel, you are able to. YouTube takes 30%. If you Rumble rant, they take 50%. Now, you could Rumble subscribe to the channel, the little red button that says subscribe with the little red gift. They give us all of that. So that's cool. You can do that. But again, Cash App, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. And that worked. Use it this week. And thank you so much to Sean, and thank you so much to Kamishwari Kate, and thank you so much to Charlie Mack Friday Night, and to Colin Care Bear, and everybody else that contributes. It's incredible. Thank you. It really helps, and it really keeps us going. If you're able to, Cash App, $Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. That's with an IE. Support independent media. We need it more than ever. I love you all, and I'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone.
All people are afraid. No one knows what they're doing. Everything is getting worse. Some people deserve to die. Your money is worthless. No one is properly dressed. At least one of your children will disappoint you. The system is rigged. Your house will never be completely clean. All teachers are incompetent. There are people who really dislike you. Nothing is as good as it seems. Things don't last. No one is paying attention. The country is dying. God doesn't care. Shh.
Good night, everyone.
Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
You can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen? 50,000 died, and now we know our mission. We form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.